Hi, this is Weir with your roadside chat from March 11th. Crazy action in Bitcoin yesterday, and even a little today, but not as crazy as yesterday. As many of you know, the Bitcoin ETF was looking for approval from the SEC. This is the Winklevoss ETF. There's two others that are still pending, but this was the big one. It would give the world kind of an idea of where the SEC stands on Bitcoin being part of the stock market, things like that. It was rejected, and as expected, the price of Bitcoin went berserk. And interesting, the market riggers that were trying to play the game of crashing the price and then loading up, as there was a lot of money on the sidelines waiting to get in. But right before the announcement, somebody apparently already knew, obviously, the price of Bitcoin shot up from about $1,200 to $1,350, and everybody was like piling in, thinking, oh, it's going to get approved, and I'm going to get rich, and the world's going to be wonderful, and I can take my yacht off to the Caribbean and live happily ever after. That's the game these guys play. So the price went up on a spike. The news came out that it was rejected, and then it got slammed. And basically what happens is the price riggers will buy it up to get the weak hands in, then sell when the news, sell some of what they bought up when the news breaks, make everybody cascade over the top of each other, everybody trying to sell. And then when it kind of gets to the bottom, all the weak hands are gone, which was, it went from 1350, got slammed down to about 975 in a matter of seconds or minutes. And then they load up, both what they had dumped at the top and, get a bigger position. A lot of the little guys were caught out who were trying to mimic the game of the price riggers. I know a lot of people who are on Coinbase trying to buy sub 1,000 Bitcoin, but Coinbase was absolutely, the servers were overloaded and nobody could get in. I know a lot of people who are really pissed off that they made the right call of what the price was going to do, but they weren't able to get their buy Bitcoin sub 1,000. They still got in about 1,100. But it's kind of like sitting back and saying, we're gonna watch this game play out, and I'm gonna try to game the gamers and get in when they get in and get out when they get out. God bless you if you can do that. And unfortunately, Coinbase was not very receptive to that. They say it was the volumes that shut everybody out. It might have been also that they were loading up on the cheap before they let everybody else get in. I don't know. It's not as regulated as it should be, which is an interesting thought and idea. And let me read you the reason that the SEC denied the ETF. Here's the conclusion. And it says, based on the record before it, the Commission believes that the significant markets for Bitcoin are unregulated, meaning that there's no regulation around the market. So how are they going to put an ETF together that is regulated? It's because the underlying asset is not regulated. It goes on to say, therefore, as the exchange has not entered into and would currently be unable to enter into the type of surveillance sharing agreement that has been in place with respect to all previously approved commodity trusts, ETPs, agreements that help address concerns about the potential for fraudulent or manipulative acts and practices in this market, the Commission does not find the proposed rule change to be consistent with the Exchange Act. What does that say and what does it mean? It says the SEC is not going to get in the middle of regulating Bitcoin, and if they had an ETF, that would be their responsibility. What it also means is they're trying to protect Bitcoin from the abuse of their markets. I mean, the reality is the real abuse happens in the regulated markets with the nod and a wink of the regulators. That's where the big money abuse comes in. So it's a great thing in my mind that Bitcoin is not being thrown into that bucket quite yet. Yes, it's going to block trillions of dollars from going into Bitcoin right away. Here's the thing also, those trillions of dollars have no idea what Bitcoin is at the moment. Very few people are outside of Bitcoin waiting for it to get, these would be new people to Bitcoin. It'll take them a while to, kind of get their head around it. And as the price goes up, they get all excited about it, but they still don't understand Bitcoin. And it would make the potential for abuse of the price of Bitcoin extreme. For example, if there is a stock market crash, these big money funds will look, because they're leveraged on, hyper leverage within the stock market, as things go down, they look at their winners to sell, and that's basically going to be Bitcoin. So Bitcoin will have downward selling pressure in the stock market crash. Whereas if it's outside of the markets, it won't affect it as much. It might even be the spot to run to, such as gold, silver, and Bitcoin, should the markets implode from the reversal of leverage. Okay, so now let me talk about a few of the reasons why the SEC cannot have a Bitcoin ETF on the stock market. One is the volatility. Way too volatile for something like the stock market, and the job of the regulators theoretically is to protect people from abuse, and yes, Bitcoin price is too volatile for your average daily investor. They don't mind silver being too volatile, obviously, because they still let the riggers have a day with that. But Bitcoin volatility is one of the reasons the SEC said no, the people aren't ready for it yet. And also, this ETF, the way it was structured, the Winklevoss brothers, they were both the custodian of the Bitcoin, which should scare everybody. They're having that kind of centralization of large amounts of Bitcoin in the hands of basically these two brothers is very dangerous and kind of against what Bitcoin is all about, decentralization of Bitcoin, and how it's they would just have too much say if they ended up with millions of Bitcoins under their own control. So that's good that it's not going to be in the hands of just the Winklevoss brothers. But not only were they the custodian, they were the ones holding the auction at 4 p.m. every day to set the price of the ETF. Talk about the ability. It sounds a lot like the silver fix that the LBMA is running from right now. And yeah, huge conflict of interest there. So yeah, I'm glad that didn't happen. Also, the scalability issues with Bitcoin need to be resolved still, and that will in some way change the Bitcoin structure. I am a big proponent of Bitcoin Unlimited because it is cheaper. It'll be cheaper transactions and faster transactions right away. And we have to get Bitcoin into the hands of the people during this monetary implosion that is impending. Could be months away. And the other option which is the Bitcoin Core SegWit option, which would not fix the problem long term. It would increase fees. It would add a bunch of new features, which is great. But it would also kind of centralize and give these core developers a lot more power than they would have otherwise. So I'm definitely in the camp of Bitcoin Unlimited. And that's a quick fix that will greatly decrease the price, get it in the hands of the people to use, and kind of keep the miners at bay from consolidating their power. Also, the SEC was worried about hacks, and basically there's just too many unknowns and unregulated unknowns for the SEC to allow an ETF of this nature to go forward. It's the correct answer by the SEC, and most likely the other two ETFs will suffer the same fate. So that leaves Bitcoin on its own and still unregulated, still very difficult to manipulate. But this is a great example of the regulators being on Bitcoin's side. Same thing happened in China with the closing down, basically, of the derivatives related to the 3 Chinese exchanges that were trading. At the end of December, they were trading 65 million Bitcoin in a week. Obviously, these are not Bitcoin. They are Bitcoin derivatives, and that's what trades on exchanges. So yeah, the regulators are getting very pro Bitcoin, if you ask me. So I see great things in the future for Bitcoin. There's great things in the present. For my private ropes subscribers, I do offer a Bitcoin assistance program. People have joined just for this for this offer because they don't really understand how to get a Bitcoin wallet up and going and buy their first Bitcoin. This takes you through it step by step, and if you still can't get it after all the instructions, then you just email me and I'll walk you through it myself, because it's really not that hard. But once you do it, you need to get your feet wet, and that's the key. So if you're not sure about Bitcoin, just go and get like $10, $100 worth of Bitcoin, and make yourself learn this, because in the future we'll all be using Bitcoin. There's no doubt in my mind these days, and the regulators are kind of clearing the way for that moment, and it's going to be a very exciting time and a good time for humanity, no longer having to deal with banks and regulators with everything we do. We will be free with Bitcoin to do any transaction we want with anybody in the world at any moment in time. Amazing technology that could free humanity, and it is going to. And you can fight it all you want, but at some point you're going to get involved. And you know that when you first heard of Bitcoin, you didn't jump on it. Nobody did. But now you wish you had. Not just because the price went up, but because you would have had so much more information about what's going on and why. Not just that the price of Bitcoin's gone up 5-fold in the last year or so, but why it's gone up and who's involved with it, and how much infrastructure is going into the Bitcoin community, and it's going to be ready and able to go when our system collapses. And for example, Greece. If Greece had this technology and gave everybody who had a cell phone in Greece a little bit of Bitcoin back when they were imploding and the EU was cutting them off, they could have gone just to Bitcoin and been one of the wealthiest nations in the world right now. Can you imagine the price of Bitcoin when that happens? And it will happen. China already has plans to make something like that happen with 1.2 billion people using Bitcoin. So yeah, get in now, get in before. It's never going to be too late. You might get in 10 years from now when 50% of the population is using it to transact business every day, or 100% of the population is using it. You're going to get in. You might as well get in early and be one of those kind of prime movers of the Bitcoin. So as far as where we are now, the shakeup of the ETF rejection is pretty much done. Volumes are back to normal. As far as I could tell, about 300 to 350,000 Bitcoins, traded owners. So weak hands to strong hands. Some of the hedge funds and big money got in at a decent price, not as good as they wanted. They were looking for sub 800. But now the Bitcoin price is starting to move up again. I think it's at closing in on $1,200, which is normal trading going forward. And people who saw what happened and saw that the price of Bitcoin didn't implode like it did with Mt. Gox. Remember, there's no Mt. Goxes out there anymore. And we're moving forward. So join the party. I'll talk to you later. This is Weir. Subscribe to this channel. Go to roadtoruta.com to get updates daily, practically, via email. Put your email address in. It's free service. Or join the private road and get some Bitcoin startup tips. And I will talk to you later.